How much worse is it when you've got Chris Sutton offering to cuddle you in the car park, and did you take him up on his offer?
Can't even get a cuddle off his wife. He wasn't going to get one off me, that's for sure.
Who's your biggest name booking in your whole career?
Ronaldo.
When did you book Ronaldo?
That sounds fine to me. That sounds perfectly
That's
big.
good, yeah.
Sporting Lisbon, Real Madrid.
Well, the post in the fence had snapped, and there was some sheep and potentially a horse escaping out the field.
A woman hit me with a pie at Auchinleck one day and said if I turned round the Bovril would be next.
Disappears when he comes back. To Kris, best wishes are all the best, David Beckham. Kris, CH.
Oh, no,
yes.
I know it was going to... Hello and welcome back to the warm-up. We've got a good episode today, but before we get into it, please make sure you subscribe. Gordon, what have we got today?
Episode 7 apparently. I think we've done enough that I'm starting to forget how many, but episode 7 I'm reliably informed. 2 top guests as always, head of referees in Scotland, Willie Collum, and Kris Boyd. How are you both? Are you well?
Very well.
He's laughing already.
I know,
I'm
what
laughing
a start to the episode.
The last time people saw you on their big screens, you were a wee bit upset. I think is that fair to say? You were a wee bit upset at the end of the Celtic Rangers game.
Passionate.
Are you over it? How was it?
I was over it straight away. I mean, I think I go back and I think when you look at it, it was just the way the game materialised, planned out. You look at Rangers and you feel as if they've not been able to lay a glove in Celtic, for a number of games now. Started the game really well. Celtic obviously get that goal that was chopped off, and then Rangers capitulated. And it would be a worry. You've got to look at things like that and say to yourself, well, where is your characters? Where is, the leaders that are going to stand up? Because going to a cauldron like that, listen, there's been better Rangers teams than the one right now, went to Celtic Park and folded. But you've got to at least see that fight. And I thought, for large periods of that game, it wasn't there.
How much worse is it when you've got Chris Sutton offering to cuddle you in the car park, and did you take him up on his offer?
Definitely didn't. I definitely didn't. You can't even get a cuddle off his wife. He wasn't going to get one off me, that's for sure. But I mean, it's easy when your team's winning in it. You can sit there and, I mean, you've got to remember it wasn't that long ago. A smile used to upset a lot of people in Scotland, so I'll bide my time.
And how about refereeing those kind of games then? Do you get caught up in the atmosphere of those kind of matches, or do you stay as level-headed as you would in other games?
Great occasions, it's fantastic to be involved in. Nerve-wracking in the build-up. You're always glad when it's finished, but they're great occasions to be involved in. I think probably every referee in Scotland wants to referee a Celtic Rangers game.
Does your week change in terms of preparation?
For an Old Firm game, I think you'd probably lock the door, barricade up the windies and hope for the best. But you're always
speaking before it, no, after it.
Maybe before and after, but in the build-up, you're always a bit extra nervous. So much at stake. It's a big occasion. And I found myself this time. I went to the VAR room to watch a game. I probably didn't have the same nerves in the build-up, but sitting there when the kick-off goes, you're still nervous because you want the guys on field and in the VAR to do well.
How strange is that though? Because am I right in saying if you are like observing or whatever it is in your role now, you're sort of watching from a distance or outside the main room, if you like, and
yep.
It's quiet then, I guess. You don't have that same...
Quiet, you have zero sound, so you don't know even what the commentary team are saying, which can be difficult.
You're not missing much.
No, I'm not missing much, but it is very different and you're not able to influence anything, whereas when you were on the pitch or you were working in the VAR room, then you were able to influence things, but there you're kind of passing that baton on. I suppose it's like a manager.
Does it change the way referees referee games then, now that there's VAR involved?
Oh, I think so. I mean, apart from having to delay whistles, delay flags and everything, sometimes in refereeing you would have to go with your gut at times. I think there's less of that now that you've got VAR in place.
How do you enjoy that? Because you can make parallels between a footballer who retires and becomes a coach. It could be like the refereeing equivalent. Are you missing it? Are you missing the on-field stuff? What's that transition been like?
I really miss it. I miss being on the pitch. 31 years, being in the pitch. It's hard to step away from that. I don't feel I get that buzz now any longer, that great feeling at the end of a game when you're driving back and everything seems to have gone well. I don't miss when it's not going well. But I think this is the next best thing for me, Gordon. I think, to be able to make that transition now for the pitch, a leading refereeing and hopefully it's also important for me to give something back to refereeing. It's been good to me and I want to help guys progress in the future as well and help refereeing go in the right direction.
You must be doing it for free then. He's giving a bit back here.
I can't believe he's gone in two-footed in the referees already.
Nothing changes.
Did you struggle with retirement? Well, I know you've obviously got media career now and so on. See just that It must be so
No, I
different.
mean, I think, Gordon, I think that the big thing for me would be is whatever you do, and you know, I've spoken about this loads of times, you need to get a routine as quick as you possibly can. I think if you're that used to doing something for a number of years and all of a sudden it's no longer there, you've got a void in your life that you need to fill. And the longer you leave it, the more difficult it can become. You know, I was quite comfortable in the end up because I ended up being somebody I didn't want to be coming to the end. And I think
What do you mean by that? Sorry.
I was always someone who, you know, you obviously wanted to win games of football, and you wanted to. I'd like to think I was tough but fair on a lot of the young ones, but I kind of got to the feeling, I got to the stage where I was feeling as if I was maybe being more aggressive and angry towards the younger group than I needed to be, or I should have been. And the reality is, it was me coming to the end, but being able to accept that was difficult.
Did you feel like you were helping the youngsters along though at the time?
Normally, yes, I would have. But towards the end, when you're not playing and you think, right, I want to get in the team and things like that, it kind of got to the stage where you were probably having a go for the sake of, like, I was like seeing things, but I wasn't able to get there, but you were still able to see it.
So it's kind of like lashing out, so to speak.
I mean, I just think you'd be angry at the young boys for not making that pass when you think the reality is the pass was probably right. It was just me. It was, you know, I was never the fastest, but I'd actually lost a couple of yards as well. So, but I think the worst thing, and I mean, referees are about the same, when you can see something and you want to be there, but you just can't do it anymore. As I said, for me, I was totally at peace in terms of finishing because I knew I was turning into somebody that I wasn't going to be. But the most important thing for me was I was able to go from that straight into the role I'm in right now. As I said, I had finished my coaching badges, finished the pro licence. And
I was going to say, yeah, did you think that you'd go into coaching or media, or was it always a question up in the air?
No, well, I mean, I think for me, looking at, you, as I spoke about there, that void in your life where you think, what am I going to do next? And I think this is where a lot of people do struggle, that they get to the end and then they go chasing something. I think for me, I wanted to have my coaching badges done. I wanted to have the pro licence finished by the time I came, so I was in full control of what I was going to do. I was still needing somebody to maybe take a chance on me, but I was in control of. I didn't then have to. I could focus. If I was going that way, I could focus fully on that. It wasn't a case where I need to go away for a week at a time and do my coaching badges because I already had them. The thing for me was that the opportunity, the media work came up. I enjoyed it. And I'm going to be honest, I wasn't dependent on 22 guys keeping me my job. I just had to watch what I was saying sometimes.
Yeah, that's harder probably.
Speaking of which, the big question, did you ever think you'd get into farming? You had this recent development as a farmer.
Yeah.
Did I? Well, when you continuously spend what I was spending in livery with the horses, then I just couldn't continue. So, I mean, we've looked for something in the countryside for years. Weren't able to find anything, found something that we're happy with now.
Airshire's answer to Jeremy Clarkson.
Yeah, no, there's a series coming up.
It could well be. Maybe need to speak to the powers that be and we can get something up running.
I think you're the man for that. I think you've kicked the backside out of lower league football games.
Well, a lot of people
rounding up his sheep.
A lot of people probably don't know. I actually grew up on a sheep farm when I was
there
you go. So get me down it. Yeah.
Have you had any like incidents escaping?
I've had loads of incidents.
I've had loads of incidents.
Last week as well. I was I had a Q&A and I was away doing that, and I got a phone call to say that the fence the post in the fence had snapped, and there was some sheep and potentially a horse escaping out the field. So
these are the kind of issues that always come up
every day. It's something that happens every day.
Yeah.
Now I know why he was so angry at me in these latter years, though. You know, that tension building up. I wonder they changed at some point, and now it explains.
That was it.
It was when the referee started running by him. That's what I've realised there when he talked about losing.
I remember that a few times. I think I did run past you a few times. I'm sure.
Probably did.
Let's do it. The Rondo, yeah.
The Rondo. Who wants to go first? 5 quick fire questions. Me to you and Sam to... Yeah, go on. Let's give Willie the first.
Let's go. Right then. So, first question, interesting one. Best ground you've refereed in?
Best ground I've refereed in? Wembley.
Wembley. What was
Wembley.
What was the game?
England against Republic Island for the 150th anniversary of the FA, 2013.
Oh, okay.
It's great.
Nice. I like that. Yeah.
Great.
Who's the best William? Will.i.am or Billy Idol?
Did you write these?
We don't write these questions. Let me just.
Will.i.am.
Will.i.am over Billy Idol. Okay, nice. I like that. Who's your biggest name booking in your whole career?
Biggest name booking?
Must be one.
Ronaldo.
When did you book Ronaldo?
That sounds fine to me. That sounds perfect.
That's good. Yeah, of course.
Sporting Lisbon, Real Madrid.
Oh,
Real Madrid. He was back in Lisbon for the first time.
What was he booked for?
Diving, surely.
Don't even remember.
Whipping his shirt off,
maybe
scoring?
descent.
Yeah, it would have
Shut
been probably.
off after scoring's a good shout.
Yeah,
Could have been that.
could have been.
We'll look that up. Okay.
Yeah, he's got obviously decent rig. He could get that out. Get the shirt off. Classroom of pupils or a classroom of referees? What's more frightening?
Classroom of pupils. No
Has to
question
be.
about it.
Didn't
Speaking
even
for
hesitate.
experience.
No, I just knew straight away.
Especially if my kids are in the class.
What was the crossover in terms of refereeing feedback when you went back to school on a Monday?
It was tough.
Was it?
Aye. But they eventually supported me. They
You
had a
took
lot
them
of sympathy.
years.
They had
Felt
a lot
sorry
of
for them.
sympathy. They felt sorry for me. I was a teacher, they felt sorry
Did
for
they
me.
praise you?
It was great because I had no hassle in any of my classes because the kids loved talking about football. We never
Yeah.
get any teaching done, but it was teaching and learning, but it was great.
I like that. Are you running your own Twitter parody account?
Absolutely not. I would really like to find out who is running it, but it's not me.
That was a knowing
No.
smile. He's clearly aware of it. We weren't sure. So
I've not looked at it for a long time.
someone out there-
The guys used to show me it when we were on European trips. They would show me that in European
you
trips. The
seen
guys would say, "There you go."
No.
there is a parody account, and it's sorry.
To be fair, I'd only heard of it.
Yeah.
Oh,
today
you
when
only heard
we
of
talk
it recently?
about-
No,
yeah,
it's been on the go for years.
Yeah.
It's funny, like someone pretending to be and just sort of saying like, I'll do what I want. I'll shoot. I wish I had examples, but it's funny. You should we'll get some pictures of it.
Get a look at it.
And then just final question, mate. Nelson's column or Willie Collum?
Willie Collum.
Of course it has to.
Has to be.
It's got to be. It's got to
Right,
be.
you ready? A week's holiday with Chris Sutton or a night out with James McFadden?
Night out with James McFadden.
Spoken from experience.
Oh, with a few.
Winning a trophy for Rangers or securing safety for Kelly?
Winning a trophy. Always.
Turkish hair or Turkish football?
Well, I've only got one of them.
Many appearances in Turkey?
Zero.
Was it
No,
one? It was a couple.
no, it was a couple. It was a couple. Pound for pound, it must be the worst transfer in world football.
But Turkish hair then?
Nah, it's just move from the
Right.
back to the front. It's
Right.
fine.
Big-
I might get some of yours.
Biggest name, and mine needs a trim to be fair, I was worried about that this morning. Biggest name in your phone book?
Got to say Gordon Duncan.
Oh, come on, behave. You must have some proper. You got a big hit, any big hitters in there? You got Beckham stripped to be fair,
He's got
but
Beckham,
not
never
his
got his
phone
number.
number. You and Chris Sutton on texting terms?
Yeah, when he needs a lift.
So is that like, there's the pantomime element because you two are pals, aren't you? You know
No.
people. Yeah,
No, let's
come on.
not. No.
You must be.
He does my head in.
But you share lifts with him then to games
Because
to save the planet.
yes, that's Sky
Sky have
Sports.
got a very strict green
Yeah.
policy. Cupcake or protein shake?
I used to be a protein shake guy, but it's cupcake
We
now.
have to. Come on,
Yeah.
let's take a look at it. Come on, you've seen it a million times over the years. Let's do it.
On the soccer field, I'm lucky enough to get the occasional thing for free, like a free kick, for example. When it comes to scoring quality mattresses for as close as free as I'm going to get, I want Park Lane mattresses on my team. Locally made mattresses with great prices all the time, right here in Portland, which means I don't have to miss White looking for a good night's sleep. Plus, I get what I'm looking for an unbeatable price. It's like having my cake and eating it too, except I'm actually more of a protein shake guy.
Park Lane Mattresses. Great prices every day. For locations, visit parklaneMattresses.com.
Have you seen that, Willie?
Never.
You've never seen that before?
Amazing.
No, never.
It wasn't even me that done it.
Was there someone?
I
Was there
believe it.
someone there who just made sure that you
Honestly,
didn't speak
so it was
as
something
Scottish
like
as?
this. It was something like this, and it must have took about 3 days to do. Took ages. But you're all laughing. You ever bought a mattress?
Yeah,
They're
expensive.
expensive. I didn't need to buy one.
Couple of free mattresses. I like
There's
that.
a method to the
You
madness.
transport them back to the farm.
No,
when you
they
moved
just
home.
get sold out there.
I do like that. I have to say.
But did they ask you to tone down the Scottish accent just so that the
It
Americans
was
could?
so bad. Like, I must have recorded it. I don't know. It was. I actually got to the stage. Right. Okay. Say this and then just stop. Then say this and then just stop.
Hopefully, it's paid
I'm
by
not
the
joking
hour.
you. It was like 5 hours to do that, at least.
Let's see if Willie can get any endorsement deals for his referees.
What was he like to referee then? And what was he like to be refereed by?
Angry. Got
No,
to
I
be.
was never
Were you
angry.
not?
I remember a latter game called Marnock Hearts. I did never a good game, and Steve Clark certainly pointed that out a few times
Not
at the
like
end of the game. But I remember you and Stephen Naismith rolling about and kidding on somebody had been headbutted, and you went away making some signal and all that, and it was bedlam. It certainly didn't justify the 12 cautions I had, but there we go. 12.
Is that,
was
is
a
that a
good day for
record?
you.
12.
Is that a record for you? 12?
No, I think maybe I probably had maybe 15 in a knocking like Cumnock game or
Oh,
something.
classic,
Maybe
yeah, okay.
15, 16.
Back in the day.
There were horses escaped that day onto the pitch. It was the police horses, right enough. So
Were you refereeing that game? I've heard about that one before.
That's a true story. Aye,
Yeah, I've seen the pictures. Yeah.
Did you ever send him off?
Nah.
I don't think so.
He sent off twice.
Only twice? That's
Twice.
not bad. That's alright, a long career. That's
Twice
right,
Aberdeen, and
respectable.
then one I nearly broke Jim Goodwin's arm.
Sounds like you deserved
Yeah.
it then, to be quite honest.
That was the worst. That was actually, Jim was, he's like always annoying and pulling the back of your shirt and everything and annoying me. And then, do you know what? You throw a punch as if it's going to hit his arm and realise, I'm going to get done big time here. You stop from throwing the punch, and it's actually I just went like that and get sent off. But because I'd lifted my arm, that was it. So, yeah, no good.
Doesn't
And then,
sound like
My
he's
claim
got
to fame
a leg
though
to
is
stand on.
booking you for diving one night at Queen of the South.
yeah,
Do you remember that?
No.
Okay.
No.
Surely you can't have been booked for diving many
I've been
times.
booked for diving a few times. Yeah.
I just think you could be bothered. It just seems like a hassle. Leave that to
I
the
think
flair players.
No, you get your body in and then just fall. And that used to be.
Is that
Joseph,
when
it's a
Rangers won
dying
the
art right now.
championship?
No, it was. I think it was a League Cup tie, maybe about 2009 or something, 2008. I'm not saying it was right. I'm not saying the decision was right, but it
We
was
need to dig
definitely.
up the footage of that.
definitely
We should
yeah.
get it up.
Do you think
But,
there's a little bit more attempts at simulation and diving now because of VAR? There's like they can look at it and maybe technically it would be a foul.
Or is it
Like,
not,
do you think
would it
there's-
be the opposite then? Or have we seen
I
an
think
impact on
players
that?
try it
Actually, have we
more,
seen an
yeah.
impact?
I'd also say in Scotland we've never really had a problem with it. You know, I used to find there was more cards shown in Europe. When I went to Europe to referee, there'd be more attempts at simulation, you know, the diving. But here I don't think it's a big problem.
More honest in Scotland, aren't they?
I think so.
No, but I think it's been interesting the referees taking it, because I always remember like, even the ball coming up and maybe you get it done and then if the defender touch you, just fall and grab the ball. And I can remember speaking to people, the referee's got a decision to make then. If you grab the ball,
They
many
rarely
rarely
times
give it
out of
handball.
10 they'll
Come
think,
on, Willie.
if
Why
they-
do they rarely give handball? They always give the full.
I'm actually just having getting into a cold sweat here because I can remember you grabbing the ball and falling, and I did get a penalty, and I got a really bad mark for it. I'd forgot about that.
does work. It
till
does
you
work.
You've got to make a
mentioned it there.
decision. Because you're either going to give a handball, but if somebody's come through the back of you, you don't really see it a lot anymore.
See, they're learning the tricks of the
Learning
trade.
the tricks
no,
of the
we are,
trade, yeah.
They're giving it all away as well.
I'm noticing that.
Yeah.
What did you look for in referees? Just a bit of communication. Is that everyone seems to say that? Is that the key?
Do you know something? I felt sorry for referees in a way, and I'm not just saying this because Willie's here. I think.
So now he goes on
And-
TV and
and-
batters them every
No,
week.
I mean, I'll have a pop if it's a wrong decision, like the exact same as you would with a manager. Like I had it, but I think if you go back and you grew up in a generation where it was probably the old guard were coming to an end, and it was a case of there was constant communication. But they didn't have earpieces in their ear. They didn't have the communication that had. And it's not until you realise. I mean, now I've got an earpiece in my ear, and you're speaking to someone, you realise how hard that is. It can be difficult, and to try and all we hear nowadays, there's no that communication on the pitch. And it can be difficult for referees, and especially now with VAR and everything else that's going on. I said, I think it's something that you go back and the communication, the relationships that referees had with people back then. It ain't going to. It's not happening now, and it's not going to happen going forward. And I think as players, we just need to respect that.
Is it harder that, Willie? I noticed you put a programme out showing some VAR clips from this season, and I noticed a lot of people picking up on, not even criticising, almost just laughing at one of the referees talking to Rabbi Matondo and just saying, Rabbi, go away, and they just found that quite, I don't know, interesting or funny, if that's the right phrase, to just hear it. Is it harder now because you're trying to talk to player, you might be getting something from your assistant, VAR might be speaking to you if there's a check going on?
This season, for example, we're coaching the referees about when there's a VAR check going on, it needs to be radio silence. But that's no easy because the players still want an answer. But when you're sitting in that seat in front of that VAR screen, you're trying to come to a decision, the worst thing that can happen is all this noise in your ear, and it makes it difficult. And picking up what Boyd is saying there, I think it's important. Probably when I started as a Grade 1 referee, you found it difficult to have a rapport with people. It wasn't easy, and I think that's something that comes with experience. But I think what's different now is that we're coaching referees about using their personality and talking to players. So I think we're trying to make that quicker, maybe for the referees coming in, that there's that process involved where they need to engage with people. A lot of it's about managing, and sometimes you just use that phrase, but managing. What does it really mean? It's about talking, it's about explaining, it's about trying to support players, help them understand what's going on. But it's two-way. Sometimes we're talking refereeing about a lack of respect for the players, but we also need to understand that that's two-way. And this captain's approach we've brought in, we hope as well the referees, it's working, and we feel we've got good feedback for the clubs. It worked well at the Euro.
So just for people who maybe haven't noticed it this season or don't know what that is, just maybe give us an explainer. And are we seeing that every week now in Scotland? So
we picked up in the Euro. UEFA introduced it. It was only the captain to speak to the players. Well, everybody thinks, does that mean only the captain during the game can speak to the players? All 22 players can speak to the referee can speak to them. We're talking about these hotspot incidents, a red card, a controversial goal, a penalty kick, and then it makes it easier for the referee to communicate that decision. But that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that dialogue, because that's what people want. Then we're able to communicate. There's a bit more understanding with what goes there as well.
If you had to go back and start again, would you change?
I would change, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I would try and work on all the management aspects. I'd try to be able to speak to people better, build up a better relationship. I found it hard when I started, particularly as a really young referee, when I started at grassroots level, because there wasn't other young referees.
You mentioned coming up there. What was that like in Scotland especially? It
was tough,
some of the junior grounds,
and some, I say to people, when I refereed Old Firm games, Edinburgh derbies, league deciders, relegation battles, I never felt unsafe. Maybe in the house at night I felt unsafe, but I felt unsafe at times on the public park, and I think we've all got a responsibility there to make sure we try and help and support referees and encourage referees. Two things for me: we want referees brought into the game, but we also need to retain them, and that means protect them for that abuse, letting them referee as well as we're saying about young players being able to let them play.
What kind of feedback have you had then from players and clubs this season? That you talk about captain's approach, maybe tweaks to the handball rule. Those would maybe be the most obvious things that you've changed that we can maybe see and can feel. What's the feedback been like? Any clubs or managers or captains that have been particularly receptive? On the other hand, any that
I've had loads of good feedback. What I've really enjoyed is it's compulsory, through UEFA licensing, to go and visit every Premier League club and speak to the players. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot for the players, the coaches. They were telling us about why tackles are made like that, why there's a bit of holding, why there's blocking here. I found it really interesting. I've said publicly that I think referees can learn a lot from players. I think that's important. But I've built up good relationships with the coaches, not just in the top league, but throughout the leagues as well. And I think that's important. I think it's important to be respectful, that we're not just talking about VAR, we're not just talking about the top level of the game. A handball interpretation is a handball interpretation regardless of whether you get VAR or no. So I made a point after I'd been speaking to all the Premiership clubs to bring it all the lower league clubs to Hampden, to speak to them, to try and say to them, here's the directives, here's what we're working on, and I've had really good feedback. I've said to everybody, I want it to be an open door policy. They can speak to me, they can contact me, as long as it's respectful. We'll not always agree, but as long as we're respectful, then my door's open.
Do you think it would help? And I'm just thinking outside the box here. I know you're saying there because you've went and spoken to them, but you probably didn't have any engagement with managers or players when you were refereeing. Do you think it would be beneficial if you integrated that referees would go and speak to the players and clubs and come along? Say you take 2 or 3 to a club visit with you.
Yep. I went to a UEFA elite course in February in Cyprus, and UEFA brought 5 ex-players, and there was a lot of grumbling the night before. Why are players here? What are they going to tell us? What do they know about the laws? I can't even remember the names, but they were famous. Okay, wasn't Boyd, but they were famous. And when we engaged with them the next 2 days in that course, it was brilliant. And we learned so much. So they maybe wouldn't agree with the interpretation. 9 times out of 10 they did. But they would tell us the thinking behind why players were acting in that way, what their frustrations were. And I would really love at our meetings with the referees that we bring probably better former players to come to the meetings. So I'm signing Boydie up to come to one of the meetings in October.
You've let him off the hook. You said he wasn't too bad. Are there any players over your career that you just thought gave you a hard time, or you had ongoing? Because you'll see the same players over and over. Now the teams meet so often and you're involved. Any guys that were in your ear constantly?
Do you know who I always found really, really hard to referee in my early days? Alan Hutton. I always found him really, really hard to deal with. But my claim to fame is that Beckham gave me a really hard time in a friendly one night, Rangers AC Milan, and he came in at the end of the game and gave me his top and apologised. So that's my claim to fame.
Give me a hard time. Friendly, yeah, that's what I was thinking. What was it over? Do you remember what?
I don't know what it was. Maybe it was something about the Spice Girls or something. I don't know what it was.
That's us both get something in common with Beckham. I told you that one, didn't I? With the strip I got signed in America.
So you've both got Beckham strips?
Yes. Oh, mine's a classic though.
LA Galaxy, I take
Galaxy played them one night and asked, could I get the strip signed? Said to Robbie Keane, would you be able to get a strip signed? She said, yeah, I'll get it signed for you, no problem. Disappears when it comes back. To Chris, best wishes are all the best, David Beckham. Chris, CH.
Oh, no, yes. I knew it was going to be.
Can't just get the pen out and try and change it.
I could sell it on eBay.
I just thought, fair play. Absolute nobody. Brilliant.
You're still happy with that?
Oh,
how did you do in that game? Do you remember?
Doesn't matter. You get Beckham strip.
We get beat 5-3.
Did you
I
score?
Scored 2. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At least he scored against
strikers. Don't care about the result.
And so, Willie, was there any
strips?
referees growing up that you looked at when you were coming up?
How does that work? Do referees have like refereeing idols?
Collina obviously is the big one that I always remember.
He was a boss. He's a boss at UEFA when I was there. I learned a lot from him. His experience, you know. I think he took refereeing to a different level in Europe. He's now in charge at FIFA.
In terms of professionalism.
I remember him saying, for example, Boyd, one night he showed us a clip of the Champions League, the music playing and the camera panning across the lineup. And he said if you covered everybody up there, then nobody should know who the referees and who the players are. Because he talked about image, he talked about athletes, he talked about fitness, and he was really big in all of that. You know, he was also great for bringing to refereeing, in my opinion, about tactical awareness. You know, he talks about refereeing the World Cup final in 2002, Germany, Brazil, locked himself in a room for 2 days watching VHS videotapes, cautioned 2 guys in the first 10 minutes, the rest of the game was in his back pocket, you know. So he brought a lot. When I was at Euro 2016, before you went to a game, 2 days before it, you would sit with the analyst and you would look at the tactics of the teams and everything, and that was just on a different level, you know. So I thought he brought a lot.
He was just catching up with what the old firm referees done here for years, wasn't he?
If you got one refereeing decision that you can't get over from your career,
keeps you up at night,
what's the one that annoys you the most?
I can't really think of any, to be honest.
That's good.
No, in fact, I can.
Queen of the South,
No.
dive.
You've reminded me of that one, but okay. The Kilmarnock Dundee United game, the one I scored 5 for Kilmarnock, I got one chopped off at the back.
I should have had a double hat trick.
The one I get chopped off at the back post for a header, and I jumped, and I did, but it wasn't enough to have a foul. So it would have been 6.
So it's not that it's a horrific decision, it's just that
I actually need to look and see who the referee was that day. It might have been.
Wasn't you, Willie?
No, wasn't me. No way.
Imagine
get to the
double
bottom of that,
hat-trick.
actually. It was a goal. So I've scored 6.
Take it. Well, just as far as we're
We'll move
concerned.
on.
Nice.
That's fine.
We'll count it. Yeah.
Even just in this show.
I was going to say, let's move on. Why don't we take a wee look at what we've got? Because we said
nice
the
transition.
international break comes along so early in the season. You're just getting into the swing of things. The domestic football and international break comes along. So let's take a look at what we've got in store this weekend. Plenty to look forward to. This is where Kris is going to come into his own. Will we give trade secrets away, Sam, that Kris is the first guest, and Willie as well, to be fair, who've come with notes.
They both come with notes.
He's
today.
got notepad, laptop, the lot to look ahead to this weekend's
Love it.
fixtures. I mean, let's just work our way down them. Kris, how impressed have you been with Aberdeen's start? New manager of the month, unbeaten.
Yeah, I mean, I have. I've been very impressed, but I will say it's 2 teams, Kilmarnock and St Mirren, after Europe. Obviously beat St Johnstone comfortably in the first round of fixtures, and then, you know, everybody told me Ross County was the worst team at Rangers, or had been in the top flight a week before, and it took Aberdeen 96-97 minutes to beat them. So I mean, listen, I wouldn't be getting carried away if I'm an Aberdeen fan. There's a lot of tough fixtures coming up for them, you know, and I think, you know, I'll reserve my thoughts until probably the end of October to see exactly where Aberdeen are going to be, but I do expect them to come back towards the pack.
Is it too early to make, people always do this, if Rangers in particular in recent seasons, if they struggle, very quickly people say there's a battle for second on here for Aberdeen Rangers. Is it too early for that, or do you think that's realistic?
I mean, I said it myself a couple of weeks ago in terms of, I don't think Rangers can catch Celtic, and you know, you would expect the rest to throw a challenge to Rangers for that second place. Do I still think that Rangers will be way clear? Yeah, I mean, I do. I think once your team gets injuries, suspensions, you've got a bigger squad. I know Aberdeen's got no Europe to focus on this year.
And Duke's back at Aberdeen now as well.
Duke's
do you think he'll play a role?
He's decided to come back for his sabbatical, whatever he was. But
I think the fans will take that, because it's easy. Some people just view it.
I don't know. I really don't know, because it's
quite rare, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah,
I've
but
not seen many that length of time.
He was obviously trying to force through a move. You know, a few transfer windows ago that didn't happen, and then he's obviously been tipped that, you know, let's go about it this way with his agents, and because I don't think players, I mean, they're the ones that have to go back in the dressing room. I think you always get advised and stuff like that, and whoever has done it has badly advised them, because at the end of the day, if you are someone who is looking to get a move and you've not trapped for training, or you're not trapped for games, then it doesn't really look good, does it?
And he's missed out on a good start.
Someone who's going to buy you that, they'll look and say he could potentially do the exact same as us, you know, a year's time or 2 years down the line. So I mean, I just hope that, you know, he gets back. He's obviously back. Get yourself into training, and get yourself back in that team, because, you know, there was signs. I'm not saying it was consistent, but there was signs there that, you know, Duke, he was potentially somebody that Aberdeen could have sold you.
looking forward to the weekend, Willie, and hope some of these are entertaining fixtures. I wonder, as a ref, do you ever take any sort of pride or enjoyment at being involved in a really good game of football, or is it mostly just obviously a focus on the job you've done?
No, I'm thinking the best game I was ever involved in. People would probably say to me, was it a European game? Was it a Celtic Rangers game? Was it a cup final? The best game I was ever involved in was Motherwell Hibs, 6 each. I don't know if there was a lot of great football. There certainly wasn't a lot of great defending, but it was brilliant. It was brilliant. It was. My legs are still recovering. But I got a bad mark in the game, actually. I got a bad mark. There wasn't even a booking in the game. Everything, not a single booking in the game, but I missed a clear handball. It should have been a penalty for Hibs. Stephen Craigan jumped up, so it should have been 7-6.
That's a good decision as far as I'm concerned. He did give Motherwell a penalty that was missed.
Yep, that's true.
And then they went on to equalise.
Craig Brown phoned me the next day. He was really angry because he said the keeper was off his line, and it should have been a retake.
I think that's the best goal I've seen live in a stadium still. And I know I would say that a slight bit of bias, but see that Jutkiewicz for the 6th or the 12th goal.
You've obviously not been to many games away from Fir Park.
I think you're being unfair, Chris. I think you watch that back. I think it's a good hit. The when you look at the other big stories developing this weekend, it's hard to look past Rangers going to Tannadice. There's always a bit of needle in that fixture as well. Dundee United are back, sell out, they're flying. Rangers really, really need something, don't they?
They need to win the game. I think you're under pressure any time you pull on that strip. You need to win games of football, but you're 5 points behind Celtic already. You could potentially 8 by the time you kick off. Rangers are in must-win territory. That's it. You need to go between now and the next Old Firm game and win the games and see where that takes you. I'll be honest, I called Dundee United wrong. I know that's a long way to go, but I felt as if they would have been. Yeah, they got the job done in the Championship, but I don't think they were convincing in doing it.
The Raith were close.
Raith ran them close, and I just felt as if coming up with a big step up. And listen, they might end up still struggling, but what a start they've had. I mean, let's not get away from it. Jim Goodwin deserves enormous credit for not only the start they've had, but his recruitment. It's been spot on once again from Jim. And Rangers will need to they'll need to play well if they're going to go to Tannadice and get the 3 points.
What the break does always is it just allows space for stories to bubble away. And James Tavernier, reports that maybe he would leave as we record. He hasn't, and it doesn't look like that will be the case. Did you ever think that looked likely? He's obviously had a tough time. You're always in the spotlight anyway, but fans airing their grievances and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well, obviously, there's a lot of angry fans off the back of, the performance at Celtic Park, and then you go back to Ibrox and the scenes there. I didn't like it. I'll be honest, I didn't like it. As I said, I don't think anybody goes into a game of football trying to put on a bad performance. And whatever happens, James Tavernier seems to be the fall guy anyway. But the whole thing in terms of him moving on, I think once the window shut, there's a few windows still open, but I'd be astonished if he does move. I think there was reports today that Besiktas and Trabzonspor, they've already got their 12 non-European players in place. So I mean, it's going to be very difficult. That was the two teams he was linked with, and not only that as well. I'll be honest, I don't think Rangers can afford to get rid of him. It's easy to say after an Old Firm game that you've got to James Tavernier's time up and everything, but who else does what James Tavernier does for Rangers?
You don't know about the loan signing yet, how he's going to fit in, and Sterling at right back, and he's played almost everywhere across the pitch.
There'll need to be some players if they're going to churn out the numbers, and I think that's one thing that's been missed in all of this with obviously Connor Golson moving on as well, but James Tavernier and James Tavernier and Connor Golson, the amount of games that they churn out, they're
compared to other Rangers players
every single 100%. Turn up for the work every week.
Talking about a full Tannadice, Willie, is that somewhere you enjoyed refereeing? Did you have favourites over the years? Like, you must have visited them all, hundreds of times. Where did you like?
I loved it. The best atmosphere, Tannadice was good, but the best atmosphere for me was Tynecastle, particularly if it was an Edinburgh derby. It was brilliant, and then Celtic or Rangers, when it's packed is something else as well. But I loved going everywhere. I wasn't somebody that ever thought, oh no, I don't want to go there, or I would prefer a bigger game. Whatever game I was on, I always relished it. I loved being out on the pitch, loved refereeing. That's part of what I'm missing. But every game was important to me, and I always said, I know it sounds like an old mantra, but that game's the most important game of the day, regardless of where you were. It was important for the players, it was important for you. So no matter what game I was involved in, what division I was in, I gave it 100%.
See down the league, see you closer.
I know Fans, we all say, you know, in terms of the fans at the Old Firm game, players, you want the fans. Referees, if it's just one set of fans, does it have an impact?
I don't know if it's an impact, but I would prefer 2 sets of fans here, without a doubt. You know, probably the worst experience in my career, I know it goes for everybody, probably was COVID, you know, emptying and refereeing in empty stadiums, you know, it was nothing worse. I feel sorry for a lot of the referees that retired at that time. That was their last experience, you know, with football was in stadiums with no fans, but it's always better for me if there's 2 sets of fans in terms of atmosphere.
See that, you know, when you were in the Championship, maybe lower leagues, and
that was only after I had a bad game the previous week.
So it was regular. It was regular.
You can hear the shouts. So what's that balance like? Because you might have 60,000 howling and making all this racket, but is there that one guy in the corner you can hear on your case? Is that like equally as intimidating in a different way? Any memories that stick out?
Remember being at a game at East Stirling, first season as an assistant referee, the Senior League 2000. East Stirling v Hamilton. I thought I'd made it to the big time, you know, felt great, involved in senior football, running up and down the line. And then I suddenly was aware of a guy behind me the whole way up and down the line. He was coming up and down the whole stand. And it was a guy, Fergie, for Hamilton, who had been banned about 3 or 4 times. I couldn't possibly repeat what
that would have been at First Park
then,
yeah.
But it was horrific. It was there, aye.
So
but
he's tracking you up and down the line?
The whole game, aye, the whole game.
And you've never had that before or since?
It was horrific, no. Mother claim to fame was a woman hit me with a pie at Auchinleck one day and said if I turned round the Bovril would be next, so I kept my eyes firmly fixed in the front.
I like that. That's some amount of steps. That is commitment to your refereeing anger. Tracking the linesman up and down, I have to say. Let's remind ourselves of some of the other fixtures. Loads to look forward to. It's a proper fixture card this to get us back into the swing of things after the international break. When you look at Celtic, we've obviously touched on them indirectly, Chris. Callum McGregor, incidentally, is Player of the Month. He's obviously started
on fire
brilliantly, hasn't he? And up against a team, though, that really haven't, so it's an interesting one.
Shanks as well at Hearts has yet to score.
Oh, did you go to school with him? Shanks.
Sorry, Shanks.
Shanks.
It's just
I mean, I think there's no doubt that Hearts are struggling. Stephen Naismith's going to have to find a way to get results very quickly. You know, looking at the fixtures that they've got, I mean, next week you've got the League Cup, but Hearts go to St Mirren as well, so that there's an opportunity for them to get points on board, but I don't expect them to get in at Celtic Park. And as you say, Callum McGregor, I think, has been excellent for Celtic. You know, for a number of years, it's always been about, you know, keeping the ball, setting the tempo for Celtic. But he's adding goals to his game again now as well. He is a terrific footballer, and I don't think there's anybody else. There's anybody can have any complaints about him being Player of the Month. Thoroughly deserved.
Jamie McGrath would have got a few shouts. He started well. See, when you talk about Lawrence Shankland, to lean on your experience as a striker, when you become so famous for scoring goals, it then becomes like blatantly obvious when you're not scoring. He's going to tell me that he never went a number of games without scoring. I can like see it in his eyes. But we'll
doesn't know what a goalless run feels like.
We'll try and preempt. We'll try and preempt that. How tough is it? And what's he going through?
Lawrence Shankland, in terms of his movement, I think a lot of his goals come from his teammates. Yeah, there's some finishes there, but I mean, his teammates know exactly where he's going to be. It's just him getting into those positions again. And I think when you look at Lawrence Shankland, he'll continue to do what he's done. He will start scoring goals again. The only thing that I would maybe worry is he's still got the quality around him to go and create opportunities.
On Kilmarnock, is it now clearly time where we learn that it's all about European football?
Kilmarnock will be fine.
So we think we're going to see that? You think we'll see that now European football is done and dusted? They'll pick up. They will. There's no doubt about it. Kilmarnock, and I think when you look at the squad and the way that Derek McInnes sets his team up and the way they play, they're a physical team that will cause teams problems. But when you have had the demanding fixture list that Kilmarnock have had, and I mean St Mirren to a lesser extent, but I listen to people going on about Hearts have had Europe to compete to deal with. They've had 2 games. I mean, if the 2 games, let's be realistic, that's not really having a big impact.
Do you think it will impact them once the
once the group stages and it's a continuous? That will, yes, 100%. But I mean, right now, Kilmarnock, as I said, they've been the only team that's went the full, midweek Sunday all the way. And I think now that there's been that little break, Derek McInnes will be able to reset his team and go again. Difficult game at St Mirren, it will be. But Derek will be looking to start picking up points, and I fully expect they will.
Sam, as a connoisseur of the lower leagues, let's take a look at the
look.
Championship, which is already, everyone knew it would be a brilliant division.
Straight away, look at that.
Shaping up.
Dunfermline Raith.
You must be going to that.
Of course.
I
couldn't miss that. Friday night as well.
New
5
manager
derby. New manager, for Raith, Neil Collins. Yeah. Do you ever come across him?
Played with him.
Guys? Yeah.
Played with Neil when we were young boys.
How do you think he'll do as a manager then at Raith?
I think he'll do well. I do. I actually... listen, you're a football geek, and you sit and you watch. And I watched these interviews, and I think he speaks really well. He's always been intelligent, even when he was a kid. He was streets ahead of all of us in terms of, the way he communicated. And he's speaking right now, I thought he's clear in his points and he knows exactly what he wants. He spoke about commitment, giving it all for the cause, and I think that is one thing that Neil Collins epitomises him. That was what he done from a young kid all the way up through, and the career he had. I thought he was a little bit unfortunate at Barnsley when you look at when he gets sacked, but I mean, a lot of people. I'm actually surprised to see him. No disrespect to the Championship and Raith, but I'm surprised when you've went from League One in England to Raith, but. As I said, I think it shows you, sometimes...
They've got ambition there, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think sometimes when you look at it and you think to yourself that, you're in the Championship in Scotland, but Raith Rovers they're a big club, and if they get it going, if they get it going, and he spoke about the infrastructure behind the scenes and the work that's been done behind the scenes that he feels as if he can be part of that. So I mean, look, I wish him all the best. I said he's I grew up playing with him as a youngster, lovely family, and I wish him all the best.
That's the Friday night game, and then of course Saturday when we roll on, plenty to look forward to there as well across the Championship. Of course, we're talking Player of the Month time. Anton Dowds of Ayr United, they've started well.
That's a cracker.
That looks brilliant. That one against Partick Thistle. Willie, did you enjoy the Championship? Because it seems like over the last decade or so that it's been just so fascinating here for a number of reasons. We had a mad spell where we had some of our biggest clubs in there coming and going, and then you get other seasons where it's just all jam-packed together and it's so tight, and you get into the last week of the season where any team can get promoted, sort of thing. Did you enjoy it?
I loved it. I think it's a great league. When I was involved in it as well, that everybody was capable of beating each other. It was great. We also are very selective. We don't just draw names out of a hat and putting guys onto games. We're very selective because you can see big games there in the Championship as well. That we need top referees involved there. I used to like it. I really enjoyed refereeing. Probably in my latter years, you were either refereeing the Premiership, VAR, or in the Championship, and I really enjoyed the Championship. I really thought it was tough, it was competitive. I have to be honest, there probably wasn't the same kind of focus on it, but that didn't mean you gave it any less commitment.
We're speaking about it, there is now. How does that process work in terms of the referee, the structure of, you've got your top ones, and then if you've got your top referees refereeing the Championship, who decides that?
So I would decide, on a weekly basis, we've got about 15 or 16 referees who are categorised at the top level, and then we've got a group, maybe another 12 below that, and between the top referees will referee in the Premiership, they'll go to the Championship as well, VAR.
So if there's a big derby game like the Dunfermline Raith, they'll go.
So it'll be somebody for the top category as well. Aye. And this week I'm actually going to go and watch Airdrie Falkirk. I think it'll be a tough game. Again, we've got a young referee for Aberdeen refereeing that game, who's got the potential to be a Premiership referee, so it's a good test as well.
Gaffer's watching him though.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Pressure's on. If we look at some of the other fixtures as well, again, it's been with Challenge Cup action last weekend for a lot of these teams as well. So if we take a look at the Championship, we mentioned some of the big games in Livy against Hamilton Accies, Queen's Park against Greenock Morton, which brings me on nicely. We're going to keep an eye out on our social media channels for this man here, Sam, trying to recreate an old teammate of yours, Dom Thomas. We gave him goal of the month.
Yes.
You remember it? Opening
cut inside
night of the season, cut inside.
Not kicked a football in years, and then I have to recreate the goal of the month straight away.
Get excuses and it must be bad.
To try and recreate it. You didn't try it in your left.
I just smashed a few. No.
He's a left.
But he's left-footed, so I had to try it on my right. I felt like
you look good in that Queen's Park kit, though.
I think maybe they might sign me up.
What about League One then? Let's move on. I don't think you'll be getting signed for any of these teams anytime soon. No offence. Let's take a look at the League One fixtures. We're mentioned, Player of the Month, Ross Cunningham of Kelty.
Against Cove.
Obviously at home to Cove.
I'll win Inverness, a big game.
Yeah.
Inverness, they've got their struggles. They need to start picking up some points, obviously. Annan Dumbarton, Montrose, Steny. Steny beat Falkirk at the weekend.
Which one are you going to?
I'm actually going to Queen's Park. My first game at Les
He's
Hampton. Staying in the
desperate to
Championship.
try and get a game.
I know. I'm going to bring my shin
I'm not
pads just in
signing
case. They might.
Have you kept that strip?
No, but I should do. Though. I had Thomas on the back, so I need to get a North one. But we'll see. We'll get there.
Honestly. And finally, of course, League Two as well. Lots of good fixtures to look forward to up and down the country this
Player
weekend.
of the month was
as we return.
Nathan Austin
He's
as well.
Flying, isn't
Yeah,
he?
he is.
Nathan Austin.
Used to be the highest scorer on my channel back in the day. Yeah, seen him score a lot of goals for Kelty, and now he's
He
fine.
is. He's absolutely flying. Speaking of goal scorers, though, did you notice Rory McAllister?
Yes.
250 goals.
Incredible.
We thought we'd leave it to you as the only goal scorer amongst us to give him a wee bit of praise.
That's
for
incredible.
hitting
Fair
that
play to him,
landmark.
as I said. And I don't mean people will say the lower leagues. I don't buy into that. As I said, it's difficult to score goals. Everybody tells you it's the most difficult thing in the game. And you know, for a number of years, you know, Rory McAllister has made it look so easy. He's 37 now. He's getting on, but still able to find the back of the net. Fair play to him. You know, and I think when you know, he's obviously back at Peterhead now. You know, that's a little spell away. But you know, when you look back at the period they had under Jimmy McAnally and that, it was, shall we say, the glory days in Peterhead. But you know, Rory McAllister was pivotal to that. So well done, Rory.
Goal machine, absolute goal machine.
Yeah, is that the end of another
I think
episode?
that's
Nice.
pretty much it. You're the best with the instructions, so tell people what they need to do.
Yep, make sure you subscribe, obviously. Follow us on all of our socials so you can watch me embarrass myself with Dom Thomas trying to recreate the goal of the month. And yeah, huge thank you for watching. Thanks for coming in, guys, as well.
Thank
Biggest
you for
thanks
having
as
us.
always
Thanks
goes
so
to our
much.
guests. Much appreciated. Thank you, Willie Collum and Kris Boyd, and we'll see you next time.